Hi, guys. We're going to get started in a second, but let me get my Instagram going. As always, I wish there wasn't this lag, but for some reason, the technology as it's set up, we've got it. Here we go. All right, we are ready to roll. Guys, welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'm here most weeks, and I try to really be consistent about this because it's really important for you guys to be able to get your questions answered. And of course, what are we asking and answering questions about? Mind-body experience. And so let's start with that. What is a mind-body experience? A mind-body experience is a physical symptom that begins here. It's not from your head. It's not in your head. It is from your head, not in it, but from it. And whatever goes on up here can become very real in the body. So I'm going to talk all about that. And that includes why I do this work and how I got into this work. Let's start with how I got into this work, and then I'll say a couple of hellos. So, first of all, I do this work because many, many years ago, I developed back pain one day. And then that back pain just kept going and going and going. And I had it for 8 long years. Every single moment of every single day, I had that pain. And sometimes it would go up and down some, but it went basically from pretty harsh pain to extremely severe throughout the entire 8-year process. And I didn't have any sense that I was going to get better during that time. Well, thankfully, eventually, as I kept pushing and pushing and pushing to get answers, which, by the way, throughout that 8-year process, there were plenty of times where I just felt like, I guess I just give up. This is the way it is. But as I pushed for get more answers, eventually, a chiropractor said to me, "You might want to check out this book by Dr. John Sarno." So I bought the book, and then I let it sit there for 11 months. And that can happen to a lot of people because we're skeptical that any new information is really going to help us, and that the idea that a book could help with a physical problem didn't seem very promising to me at the time. Understanding what I know now, I get why it can help a lot. That's why I wrote my own book on it. So I started reading Sarno, and I was shocked to find out the information that I did. It was all science and all logic, and it just made much more sense of everything that I was seeing. And I was shocked by this, and I was like, why didn't anybody know about this? So a big reason of why I do the work that I do is because I want to give back all the things that I wish were there when I was trying to get better. One thing that I found is that my questions and the answers that I got or wasn't getting were incredibly important for getting better. Dr. Sarno said that to get better from mind-body symptoms, which are not physical symptoms that come from a structural or purely physical process, they start in the brain and then they become very real in the body. They need to be resolved by accepting the diagnosis. We need to know for sure this is a mind-body experience. But what I came to see over time is we don't need to just be certain that it's a mind-body experience. We also need to be certain that it is benign, not going to kill us, even if it's terrible. And it's also, and this is the key, reversible. Many, many people I have found have come to accept, okay, it does seem to be mind-body, but I don't think I can reverse it, or I don't know how to reverse it. So a huge part of what we work on here is how are we going to reverse these symptoms? Now, I'm going to talk about my system of working with mind-body experience and why it can help people to get better, not only quickly, but in a very targeted way. So it's called the column system. It divides the mind-body experience into 3 different types of experiences. One is emotions, another is doubt, and another is power. And I'm going to explain what all of these are. I'll get into that in a second. Let me say a couple of quick hellos, then I'll get into the system. Then we will get going with answering questions. All right. Let's say a couple of hellos. Russell Crane's Music. I see you've got some questions. I'll put them up shortly. Beatrice Khan, good to see you here. She says, hi all. Kasim says, hi, Dan and Crushing Doubt community. Kasim, great to see you here. Susan says, hi, Dan and our Crushing Doubt family and my group family members. We really are getting really close because we do a lot of talking with each other and supporting, and you can see them saying hi to each other. The more you guys join this community, the more I can help you. That's not pressure. It's actually just an invitation. Okay, we'll get to that question soon, Beatrice. I see everybody's saying hi to each other. That's nice to see. Hillel says, hi, Dan and all. Lynn Slavensky, good to have you here. She says, hi, everyone. Teresa says, hi, Dan and everyone. And All right, good. I'm up to speed on hellos there. Now for Instagram. All right. Darlene, thanks for joining us here. Rita, thank you for joining us here. Rita is an excellent mind body coach in the community who's actually trained with my system, and she does great work. Don Bulos, good to see you here. Charger Vasey, good to see you here. And Fancy as Millie, thank you for joining us here. She says, "Hi, Dan. Appreciate everything you do." Thank you so much, Millie. I appreciate that, and I'm really glad to have you here. Okay, we're gonna get to questions in a second, but first, let me do a little summary of my system and why. It's because when I answer the questions, it's going to be in the language of these columns, and I want you guys to understand what I'm talking about. So, the onsets and upticks of symptoms, and this is what I found out as I tried to get better from reading Sarno and getting my questions answered. What I found is that onsets and upticks of symptoms, those are the ones that relate to those emotions. So a lot of people in the mind body field say it's emotional. Look at the emotions. And that's partially true, but you need to know when to look at the emotions. So onsets and upticks of acute symptoms are for emotional reasons. If you go looking for an emotional reason why you have 8 years of back pain, you're not going to find much of an answer. You're going to find an answer to why it started then, but you're not going to find why it continued. The continuation of symptoms isn't emotional. It is because of what we think. And we're going to think certain things based on our experience. So if you're having back pain and you have no reason to think it's going to change, you're going to go on thinking the same things. And if you think the same things, what happens? The same experience happens throughout the body. That's what I call the doubt column. The emotions column is for those onsets and upticks and symptoms. And there we learn to recognize emotions and gain awareness of those emotional experiences very quickly so we can start to control those acute onsets and upticks of symptoms. In the doubt column, though, we need to change so much about how we think, because that's what can break up those seemingly chronic symptoms. Suddenly, we're not thinking the same things, and because our mindset determines our physiology, now our mindset's different. And that means our physiology eventually, or maybe even very quickly, can become different and break up those seemingly chronic symptoms. Nothing's chronic, not in the mind-body experience at all. So we just have to change how we think about it. I don't say just like it's so easy, but just like it's a simple task, and that's the main thing we're going to do. Lastly is the power column. The power column doesn't relate to acute onsets and upticks and symptoms, and it doesn't relate to symptoms that are seemingly chronic because of our thinking. It relates to our relationship with ourself, and we recognize power column symptoms as needing to be analyzed and understood if we hit a plateau in the recovery. So typically you don't discover the power column until after doubt is down and you've discovered a lot of your emotional experience. Then you might hit a plateau in recovery. And when that happens, it's time to look at the relationship with the self. Now, I'm going to say one last thing about these three columns in terms of organization and how we think about them. And that is that each of these symptoms has a function. And we need to know what that function is, because if we stop that function, that's why we can stop the symptoms. So in the emotions column, for those acute onsets and upticks and symptoms, the function of the symptom is distraction. The symptom, the physical symptom, comes in as a psychological distraction so that we don't have to feel whatever we don't want to feel at that moment. Now, that's why discovering what the emotion is takes away the symptom. The distraction is not needed anymore if we can make that conscious. In the doubt column, we can also disable the function. The function in the doubt column is protection. It's like our inner helicopter parent. It thinks we're in danger. If we convince it we're not in danger, the protection function is no longer needed, and the symptom starts to break up, and eventually it just goes away. And when I say eventually, sometimes that can be within minutes, hours or days sometimes, but sometimes it can be minutes. So we're taking away the symptom function by understanding what's happening at the given moment, and we can get those symptoms to go away as well. Now, how can we get plateaus to go away? Well, we have to address the symptom function of the power column. The power column is not there to function as a distraction. It's not there to function as protection. It is there to function as a communication. There is some part of us that wants to know about our own deep down experience and what makes us who we are and what we need to self-align. And if we don't receive that communication, we don't receive the message. And then the symptom continues because we're not addressing the function of the symptom. So we've got three columns. Three functions to the symptoms. If we know how to recognize what's what in a given moment, we can know what function do we need to address? How do we do it? And in each of these columns, there's tasks to be done. So when we do that, we're addressing the function of the moment, and we can take away any symptom. No symptom lasts. We can control acute onsets and upticks in symptoms better and better and better. And there's nothing chronic. And in the meantime, we can receive that communication and develop a better relationship with ourselves. That's the system. So as I go through answering these questions, it's going to be through a columns lens. I'm going to talk about, well, is this an emotions column symptom? Is this a doubt column symptom? Is it a power column symptom? And as we work at that, I'm going to keep showing you that system that allows you to figure out what's happening in the moment and what to do about it. All right, so let's answer tons and tons of questions. Ask as many as you can or want to or need to. And what I'll say is every time you ask a question, my first answer is just my first answer. Follow up as needed. The whole idea is that you make sense and your symptoms make sense, and we need to figure out what is it you need to know, because that's the information that's going to get you better. Rev Dubois, thank you for joining us here. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Gervasi says, oh, okay, I see. Hi, Dan. This is Charlene Gervasi. I figured you didn't recognize my Instagram handle. I actually thought it was probably you, but I wasn't sure. Is this where I ask a question? Yes, it is. I don't know how else to join your weekly Q&A. So you can do it on YouTube. The Crushing Doubt channel announces these events, and you just go to the event and you can put in questions there. You can also do it on Instagram. You also can do it on Facebook. That comes through on the YouTube feed that I have here. Okay? So yes, please ask questions, Charlene. I'm ready to answer them. Russell Crane's Music says, hey, Dan, played a difficult gig last night. The keyboard, pedal, and sound were bad. It was very stressful, and I developed pain, tightness in my right forearm during the gig that is still here today. I'm struggling to talk myself out of this being an injury. I know we've worked on this a lot in the past and been successful at it, but right now my doubt is high. Your input always helps. In general, I'm a bit confused about muscles getting tight/painful to the touch. Let me make sure you didn't say anything else about this, Russell, so that I can answer this question, hopefully to your full satisfaction. So first of all, I'm sorry that happened. That is very stressful. I'm a musician myself, though I don't play as many gigs as you do, at least not yet. But I'm planning to, and so I can imagine how stressful that could be. Let's first start by acknowledging that, but then we've got to figure out where to work within these columns. Russell's pointing out he's having doubt. So, that's an easy tell for when we go to the doubt column, right? So, what we're going to do, Russell, is talk a little bit about why this is a mind-body experience. I'm certain that it is, and I hope that's helpful already, just to lend the idea that how about we start by thinking about it this way? And this is not just for Russell, it's for everybody. What are the chances that you're on stage and a stressful emotional experience happens, and then you also happen to get an injury? The chances of that are very, very, very low. It would be an immense coincidence, especially knowing what we do about how often this happens. So we're going to need to work through the confusion you have about muscles getting tight and painful to touch, the physicality of it. But we're also going to need to walk you through why might this have happened? Because if you think about it, from a column's perspective, yes, he's having doubt about it, so we're going to work in the doubt column there. But this was an emotions column onset or uptick. He's on stage. He's fine before then. The keyboard, the pedal, the sound are bad. It's getting stressful. Develop pain and tightness in his right forearm. Now, Russell, I imagine your right forearm was being used in some way, and forgive me for not remembering, actually. I thought I remember you drum mostly, but hopefully I have that right. And my apologies, everybody. My head sometimes, I'm answering so many questions and so many different things that I can sometimes forget what's what here. But I thought you were a drummer. So please do let me know if I have that right. But, your forearm is very prominent in drumming. Now, it could be that you were playing a different instrument, and if so, let me know. And my apologies again if I'm wrong about this. But you have to remember, when you have an emotions column experience, your mind wants it to be a very convincing mind-body experience. And what's it going to do to make it convincing? It's going to go to a plausible place for there to have been an injury or some kind of physical event. So it went straight for a place that you would have been playing. Now, you were saying the keyboard, pedal, and sound were bad. I don't know if those were yours, that you were playing the keyboard, um, or the pedal or whatever. But whatever it was, we know you were stressed. Like, you said it was very stressful, and it would be very stressful. So there's actually 3 ways we can work on this, all from a column's perspective. One, we could pinpoint the emotional experience that led to the symptom. Doing that would not only bring your doubt down, but it also would allow you, when you do that really well in the moment, to reduce the symptom right then and there. And I want to help you guys develop the skills and ability to do that, so that, Russell, when you were playing on stage, you'd be able to say, okay, wait, I know what's going on here. And that could reduce the stress of that moment and take away the symptom at the very least, even if it didn't reduce the stress. Then we need to work in the doubt column. We need to work on this. You're saying, I'm a bit confused about muscles getting tight and painful to the touch. Well, think about it. Muscle tension, even the name, it comes from the idea that we get tense. Your brain can make anything that the body can do happen. My rule of thumb is this: if the body can do it, the mind can use it. So, can the body get tight muscles? Yes. Can it do it for mind-body reasons because the mind tells it to? Yes, it can. And that's what happened. In fact, you brace yourself for danger when you feel that something's stressful or there's a threat. So your muscles tense up. And what would be more natural than feeling your muscle tense up in an area where you're using it right then? It's so plausible. Now, what ends up happening is, people sometimes ask me, and I needed to ask this question myself, what's happening between the brain and the body? Well, the brain can send chemical messengers to any part of the body and command it to do anything it wants. So if it wanted to get your muscles to be tight, it can do that. If it gets it to be sore and painful to the touch, it can do that too, because it can basically send messages as if you are injured. And Russell, that's what happened. Your brain was like, he's in trouble here, and that muscle's freaking out, and that's injured. We need to shut that down. And it sends it's basically like having an injury. It's very temporary. It's totally reversible, but you can develop pain right there because your sensory neurons are firing as if you have an injury. Now, you don't. You'll be able to resolve that. So I've talked you through the doubt part of it. I've talked you through the emotions part of it, but there's also the power part of it. And the reason I bring this up is I suspect that a huge part of your stress comes from a power column kind of experience where you're feeling like, I don't feel okay on stage here. If we made an adjustment in the power column, you'd come to feel like the keyboard, pedal, and sound being bad is not on me. I don't need to worry about it that much. Let me just play my best. And you would de-stress yourself. So we've got 3 columns and 3 ways to work here, Russell. Let's see what you think about what I just said. All right. I want to say hi to some people. Amit Goswami, thank you for joining us here. Real Eric Martinez, thank you for joining us here as well. And Chrissy143 Hart, thank you for joining us here. I actually think I recognize some of your names from having seen me go live on Instagram with symptomatic.me, which is the ATNS, and Dave Clark. He and I were on to talk about mind-body experience, my book, the movement, all that stuff. So hope that you guys enjoyed that. And you can see it on replay on symptomatic.me. I'm also going to put it on my Crushing Down Instagram soon as well. All right. Laura Brown says, I know I have doubt because I'm still taking medication. Do you think you must come off of all medication to get better? Thank you. All right. Great question, Laura. So I'm going to give the first high-level answer to that. Then I'm going to get into specifics. Do you need to come off of all medication to get better? No, you don't. What you do need to get better is to come off of all doubt. And sometimes medication can keep you in doubt, but sometimes medication helps with doubt. So I say that my rule of thumb is do the thing that reduces the doubt. So for some people, they feel like I can't function without the medication yet. I need to bring my doubt down first, then get off the medication. You won't need the medication in the long run. That's true. But you don't need to get off of the medication to get better. You need to get off of the doubt. For other people, taking the medication does cause the doubt. For those people, do they need to come off the medication to get better? Probably, because it's causing doubt. But Laura, Your brain is the only one that matters. So my question to you is the medication causing doubt, or does it make you feel even more likely that you can get better? And by the way, to make matters even more complicated, but also to simplify them as we analyze this, you could have the medication add to your doubt uh, for a certain time and then decide, okay, now it's actually helping. Or the other way around. It was helping. Now it's making me doubt. And that's actually even more common. So you've got to think about this from a moment to moment perspective. And that's something I recommend with all columns work and all mind body work is what is this moment like for you? Where do you need to do the work? I'll back up for a second. Russell, with your question, I talked about 3 different columns, but where do you need to work first? Doubt. If doubt is there, you must work there first. In the column system, you bring down doubt, then you will look at emotions, then you move to power. All the work I was suggesting is good, but let's first get that doubt down. And let's do follow-up and see if what I said actually helped. I'm looking to see if you responded, but I haven't seen a response yet. So there's no pressure to respond, by the way, Russell. I just want to make sure you're getting what you need. All right, so Laura, you do not have to get off of the medication first to get better. We got to bring down the doubt. So my question to you is the doubt causing, is the medication causing more doubt or relieving more doubt? Now, I want to say one thing about that, what I just said, not just about medication, but about questions in general. On my website, there are certain resources that you can get. The book's on there now, thankfully. I'm very excited about people getting to read that and can't wait to hear what people think. But in addition to that, my teaching seminars are on there. They teach all about mind-body experience, why one person says this and another person says this, and how to make sense of it all. Because in a lot of ways, we have too much information and not enough information all at the same time. The seminars make sense of that. After that, you can get support from me once, twice, or 3 times a week. Direct Zoom calls with me. They're not recorded. And you can get on these calls and ask your questions just like you're doing now. But there's distinct advantages to the groups. First of all, the support that you get there in knowing the people and in learning from the other people is huge. But the other thing is, in one sitting, we can get a lot further with your questions because I can ask questions directly of you and you can ask questions directly of me and I can get you better answers. Laura, I just gave you an answer. Hopefully it was helpful. But if we were in a group together, I could get those answers really fast and give you very specific recommendations and answers that apply directly to you. All right? Let's do more. Let's follow up as needed. All right. Kasim has a question. Kasim says, I went to improv class on Monday, and unlike the first 2 classes where I felt I belonged and really loved being there, this time I felt out of place and a lot of emotional themes were triggered. I'm sorry, Kasim. That's a bad in the moment experience, but not indicative of what's going to happen. Those first 2 great classes, they were every bit as great as you felt they were. And what we can do is start to hone this experience. So more and more of them are the good experience. Let's figure out what was going on here, though. So then Kasim says, so much so that I almost left. How do I get my power back or overcome feeling like an outsider in a place where just the week before I felt accepted and flourished? All right, Kasim, the key here, and this is for Kasim, but it's for everybody. Every question and every answer is for everybody. We have to discover, why did you feel the way that you did there? And I totally understand that can happen. I've had it happen myself where, I run a basketball league. Sometimes I feel great there. Sometimes I feel horrible there. And that's an emotions column event. Well, let me say this. It also could be a power column event. The emotions and power column, by the way, they're both emotional columns. The emotions column is just to discover the awareness of it. And the power column is where you decide you're going to make some changes and do something about it. And Kasim, I think you've got the right idea here. This is a power idea primarily, but the emotions column onset of that experience could give us information about what is happening in that power column. So in the first 2 classes, you felt in power. You felt really good. In this class, you didn't. And I want to know why. I don't expect you to have the answer to that, Kasim. The columns are many different things, but one of the things they are like a detective system. So we're going to explore what this was about. Kasim, in the group, we'd have it back and forth. We'd get answers to this right away. Here, I'm going to ask my question. I want you to follow up as needed. What was going on there that was different? And let me point you in the right direction for potential things. This is not just for Kasim, but for you all. If you're in this kind of situation where it usually feels good and now it doesn't, was there someone new there? Was there someone there that was doing something different? Did you have a different experience that day so that when you came into that experience, you were in a very different place? Was it something where maybe you weren't aware of some emotional experience, so you came in expecting it to go well and then it didn't feel good? Whatever it is, I promise you, you make sense and your symptoms make sense. So let's figure out what was going on there. Our job is to track down what was happening there. What I can guarantee you, Kasim, is that you are going to be able to get to a better place about this very quickly. Now, he does have a follow up. I felt the teacher didn't support or encourage me. During the scene's work, the other students actually turned their back on me, literally excluded me from the scene, and other students interacted. Okay, well, Kasim, that's a very shitty experience, and I'm sorry that happened. But, oh, wait, he's got more. It didn't interact with me, but then changed the scene and focused on someone else, leaving me hanging and feeling out of place. I also was not in my quote groove. All right. Now, there's a reason you weren't in your groove in the first place coming into that. And I'm not blaming you for it. I'm just identifying it so that we can find the answers to this. We're going to find why you weren't in your groove. But what ends up happening, and this is very frequent in the power column, is, and you know this, Kasim, you've experienced this. When you're in your power, people are drawn to you. They can't help themselves. When you're out of your power, they respond totally differently to you. And it's actually very frustrating and it's not very fair. But what I want to say to you, Kasim, is we can get control of this. So what I want to recognize is something had your power low. These other people didn't respond well to it. I don't mean didn't respond well to it like it was a problem for you. I mean, they had a problem within themselves. But we're not going to rely on them to do a great job. We're going to rely on you to put yourself right back into power and see. That's when they pay attention to you. When we pay attention to ourselves, other people pay attention to us. It's like we remind them who they're dealing with. And so, Kasim, this was a low power moment for whatever reason. I'm sorry it happened. And it's the last thing that somebody who has experienced trauma and had low power before needs. But nothing bad is happening. We're going to put you right back into power. And when I say nothing bad is happening, not only can you get right back into power, but those people ignoring you, they weren't really actually ignoring you. Like they weren't looking at you and thinking, oh, you're not important. They were having an unconscious response, which is annoying, but we can control it. And Kasim, I want to see what you think about that, what I just said. I hope it was helpful, but we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Lady Lawyer, thank you for joining us here. Please do let us know if you have any questions, or I guess let me know since I'm the one who's going to be answering your questions. We're talking about mind-body experience. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Jamie, thank you for joining us here. She says, hi, Dan and Crushing Doubt community. All right. An Instagram question. Okay. Charlene says, great, thanks. My question is that I really think I have a neuroplastic feedback loop going on. The fact that my symptom is always there in a varying degree, but never really goes away fully. So let me first explain what a neuroplastic feedback loop is. As I define it, this is a particular type of doubt-based symptom that is, it tends to be more stubborn to get rid of at first, but I don't say that to worry anybody. There's a whole protocol that I do that gets rid of those as well. I've had one of those before. It did take longer to go away, but it did go away. And now every once in a while it'll act up as an emotions column symptom, but it's not there in the doubt sort of way. Charlene, you're trying to distinguish between that kind of stubborn symptom and what I would say is just a doubt symptom, because doubt symptoms can be stubborn too if you don't have the doubt down. The difference is when you bring down the doubt fully, doubt symptoms can just vanish. They can go away fast. With a neuroplastic feedback loop symptom, what happens is the doubt comes down, but it takes time for the nervous system to catch up. Why is that? Because a neuroplastic feedback loop is a doubt-based symptom that also happened with a very, very upsetting emotional event. Very specific. So, Charlene, if you didn't have a very upsetting emotional event right at the time of the onset of the symptom, you don't have a neuroplastic feedback loop. And I actually don't think you do, but let's consider it. Now, she's going to say more, so I'm going to discover more. She says it started with an injury but went away, then came back later and has been there ever since. Okay, this is a telltale sign, Charlene. And I actually mean this is good news. This isn't a neuroplastic feedback loop because those don't go away and then come back later. They don't. They're very stubborn right from the start. However, What you're recognizing is that there is a stubborn doubt symptom there. And that's not the symptom being stubborn, that's the doubt being stubborn. And we're going to discover what the doubt is and get rid of that. In the doubt column, here's what we do: observe, articulate, and counter. To observe a doubt is to call it into question, to stop buying that it's the truth. Then we articulate it. What is the doubt? Put it into words. Then we counter it effectively with science and logic, or the logic of ourselves, until we feel that that doubt is completely full of crap. Well, Charlene, I would say we're at the phase where we need to observe the doubt. There's something that you're thinking is there's something about the way that you're thinking, and I don't mean it critically, that is feeding the doubt still. And so you say, it's like my brain developed a habit of sending a pain signal to that area and it's not turning off. Well, you're actually right about that, but it happens for multiple reasons. And the primary reason that it happens with most people is not a neuroplastic feedback loop, which is a very specific type of experience. The vast majority of mind-body symptoms are not that. What it is doubt continues to send that signal. It thinks you need protection. Now, she says, how do I get my brain to break that habitual loop if that's what's going on? Well, first of all, it's not what's going on, so that's good news because it'll get better faster that way. There are ways to break that habitual loop, but it's about bringing down doubt and staying patient with that. Now, she says, sorry for multiple messages, not a problem. Instagram limits the number of characters per message, I guess. Not a problem at all. But I hope that my answer to you was helpful and encouraging. You don't have the kind of symptoms that are going to be super hard to get to go away as long as we can conquer the doubt. And so what we need to do is look at what is the specific doubt here. All right, let's do that as the next question to follow up on. Laura says, that's so helpful. Thank you so much. That was about the medication. I'm glad it was helpful. By the way, if I missed saying hi to anybody or any question, please do let me know. All right, back over to YouTube for some questions. Let me make sure that I don't miss anything. Beatrice said, I actually have a question regarding a doubt trigger versus a real medical condition. Let me first explain what a doubt trigger is, and then I'll get to Beatrice's question. So a doubt trigger is an event that happened in the environment or an experience that makes for a very plausible mind-body symptom. Russell's was one of those. It was a doubt trigger. He's playing music, and he develops a symptom in the forearm where he's using that arm. Very convincing. Charlene, I think your injury also would have done that. That was a doubt trigger, and it did go away, but I think that doubt trigger was lingering in your mind. And so Beatrice is having a doubt trigger, and let's hear what she has to say. So a week ago, I had what I think was an abdominal strain, which has gotten worse and limited me in my progress of resuming activities. Also, the pain gets worse with eating. Doubt trigger was going to PT, where I was hoping for reassurance, yet fearing what happened, which is that the PT said this may be more like a possible hernia or organ damage. I don't know what that was. Organ what? Well, let's see if you have more information on that. Beatrice then said, of course, my other problem area in the foot feels worse as well. All right, I'm going to answer this the best way I know how at first, Beatrice, and then let's do some follow-up questions. The first is this. I want to encourage you all. Doubt-based experience is incredibly convincing. It's supposed to be. So thinking you had an abdominal strain, doubt would mimic that exactly. In fact, it might even be stronger than what happened with an abdominal strain. So I just want to encourage you all. You're going to have lots of symptoms that you are totally convinced were physical. And that's exactly what doubt wants. That's how the mind-body defense works. And so, Beatrice, I would be utterly shocked if you actually had an abdominal strain. Seriously. It's not easy to do. And typically, strains, true abdominal strains or true strains of whatever muscles, they happen with very quick and violent movements. Or if you get like some kind of weight-bearing thing pins you backwards, or there's an injury, or there's a car accident, even then there can be mind-body experience within it. But the chance that you got an abdominal strain doing the activities that you were is extremely unlikely. And I'm saying that to be supportive of you. I don't want it to be dismissive of the experience. I get it. And I know that it really physically hurts because it is physical. Mind body experience is actually physical. But I want you to push back against doubt, at least potentially, because it is extremely likely that this is a doubt trigger, not an injury. Now, you went to the PT hoping for reassurance, but fearing what they said. And the PT said, "Oh, this sounds like a possible hernia or something related to the organs." But I think it's very unlikely. However, if you need to get it checked out by a doctor to see, you could see. Injuries do happen. They're just pretty rare, actually. Hernias, by the way, are much more common in men as well, Beatrice. So another reason that this would actually not be very likely. And you have to remember, a PT, a doctor, you put on your doubt armor, as I say. Call into question what they're going to say, because they're going to say a lot of stuff that's going to end up feeding doubt. All right. Now I'm going to try to move through questions a little quicker this week because last week I ran into just not being able to answer questions at the end. So I'm going to try to move a little faster through them, but do follow up questions as needed. Okay, Shelby Geyer says, trying to keep it to one question tonight. Okay, no worries if you need to ask more. How do I move forward from what I shared earlier? If you'd rather answer offline, that's okay too. Actually, I'd almost always rather right here online in the moment because I get so many messages. It's nice to be able to just answer them right here. So I'm a do it now kind of person. Let's do it. So Shelby, you're having a symptom that has you worried. We know that your worry is that you have MS, which you don't. And I know that the flash in the eye is this newer symptom that has gotten you more worried. And then even when you calm down about it, you had a doctor say a particular thing that made you worry something's going on. And what she said was, well, keep an eye on it. Now, you got to remember this, Shelby. The reason she told you to keep an eye on it is because you have doubt. It's not because she has doubt. I already know what she thinks about this, and you know what she thinks about this. But I get why you'd have doubt based on the tonality of what she said. What you have to remember is if you are a doubter, you are sometimes inadvertently going to convince other people to have a little bit of doubt. And then you're going to hear that doubt coming back at you and be like, oh my God, there is reason to doubt. There's not. This came from doubt. And I want to help all doctors shut that down. Now, what I would have loved to have been said to you is, no, you don't need to keep an eye on this at all. This is, again, the mind-body experience. It's happening again. However, Shelby, so listen, let's see if we can put that to rest by what I just said. I'm totally definitive about it. And you know what? She would be too if she knew what you were thinking. I know doubt, so I know how you got into what you're thinking, but this is not anything to worry about. Now, we also know that a lot of times you can get that reassurance and it doesn't actually resolve much of anything because, I mean, it helps a little and it helps in the moment. But what ends up happening is you don't feel that you can trust your own mind yet. That's where we have to do the work. Now, I know your circumstances in a number of regards. That includes, what kind of work you're going to be doing. And the primary work we're going to have you do next is to read my book, which obviously you could have some doubts about whether it'll get delivered on time because it's been taking some time. But a lot of people, those delivery times, it's been much shorter than they expected. And hopefully that will be to you very soon. So we've got to work on your belief in you, but I'm totally definitive. You have nothing to worry about. The reason that doctor answered that way in the way that they did is because you had some doubt. And I don't mean that to blame you for it because they need to do a better job keeping up a wall against doubt. But that's what happened, just to explain to you what happened, okay? In a way that tells you you don't have to worry about anything. All right, let's see how that sits with you. All right, Hillel. This morning, panic attack. Have been anxious all day. Nausea and worsened symptoms. I'm sorry, that's not comfortable. Triggered by my father and boss pushing me to work outside in the real world. Stress me almost as much as the IDF, which is the army in Israel. So that's a lot of stress. My thoughts are racing. How will I manage the pain, anxiety, and gut issues? I can't. Hold on. I can't. That's doubt, Hillel, as you know. But I highlight that because I want to show everybody, don't let doubt run. Don't let it get very far. Here's the reason you can. You're saying you can't, Hillel. There are 3 columns, and they're going to teach you how to manage these things. And you are getting better and better and better in all 3 columns. But one of the main columns we're working on right now, actually, is the emotions column, which is to recognize How do these onsets and upticks relate to your emotions? If you can know that and see that you can control them, then I can't becomes I can. How will I manage the pain, anxiety, and gut issues? Well, I'll tell you what. When you have an onset or an uptick of a symptom, we're going to help you be very aware of what's happening, be totally certain that you can use that to control the acute symptom, and it will control the symptom. So, how will you manage the pain, anxiety, and gut issues? With the emotions column. That's the primary thing. I need to convince you that it's true and it's that powerful and that useful. But you said I'm about to tell them not to make any decisions over my head, but the 1% chance it won't work throws me into anxiety. Guess what? They can make a decision. You still don't have to do anything about it. You can just be like, you decided that without me. I'm not doing it. They can't make you do it. I mean, they're not going to do that. All right. Now, you said, I know this is about helplessness and would feel different if I were in my power. Also true. The columns work off of each other. When you're feeling powerful, your doubt comes down. When your doubt is down, you can recognize the emotions more and feel like you can use them more. These columns feed each other. But Hillel says, right now, I don't know how to handle the symptoms or feel safe. What we need to do primarily is to work on the emotions column and show you just how useful it is. So that's the work we're going to do, Hillel. Let me know if that makes sense to you in terms of a goal. All right. Karen Isaacs, good to see you here. Thanks for waving hi. All right. Millie Hilton, good to see you here. Do you have experience of helping people with symptoms that started due to an adverse reaction to a medication? It was almost 2 years ago now, but my dizziness and limb weakness remain. Yes, I do have experience with this. A couple of occasions that I can think of offhand. And it makes sense because it doesn't matter where the initial experience occurred or even why. Once we get into this feedback loop with the mind and body where we're so afraid, the symptoms are off and running. Now, I will say this. Sometimes people had an adverse reaction to a medication at a time of emotional struggle. That can happen. Sometimes they can just have that experience and that leads to doubt. So you're now having doubt about it, Millie. That's the primary thing. It's 2 years ago. So we could look at the emotions to find out what it may have been. And it may not have been anything in the emotions column. It may have been what I call a doubt trigger, where you had this event in the environment of taking the medication, having an adverse reaction. And then now it's doubt, though, because it's been going on for 2 years. So that dizziness and limb weakness, that is not because of a medical condition, which I think you actually know, especially because, look, doctors cannot explain what has happened. We need to make sense of what did happen, Millie, and I can do that. All right. So what I want to focus on is how do we make sense of this? Because if we make sense of this, you will feel that doubt can come down, that the symptom can actually be made to go away. And then you'll calm down and then it actually will go away. But I have to get you fully calm about it. And we can't calm down about something that we don't understand. So let's work on understanding it, Millie, okay? All right. Beatrice with a follow-up. So is this a case where I wait or just get it checked out? There's always a fear of real injury. I don't see any real reason to get this checked out. It's very unlikely that anything happened. I don't know how definitive the PT was about, oh, maybe this is something. If they sounded like, this seems very like that, then I'd say, fine, let's get it checked out. But that didn't sound like what was going on there. It sounded like they were kind of grasping at straws, trying to figure out what happened and said, it could be this. But real injuries don't happen very often, and people heal quickly. So, generally speaking, usually when they don't, it's a mind-body issue. So what I would do, Beatrice, is I'd probably wait if you feel like it's okay. If it doesn't raise your doubt too much, wait. If it's going to raise your doubt, go get it checked out just to bring down the doubt, because that's the main thing. But there's no way you have anything going on with that. And I'd rather you wait and see for yourself that it's starting to calm down. It's true. Dan was right. That's what I want to do if we can. All right. Let's try that out. All right, Darlene, before I got a TMS, that's tension myositis syndrome, which is what Sarno called mind-body issues, I had no trouble sleeping. My safest place was my bed. My brain is trying to convince me my mattress is causing all my pain and weakness. I know it's not, and it's all mattresses now. It's ridiculous, but it keeps trying to convince me. It's been ongoing over 3 mattresses these past 2 years. Okay, Darlene, you're doing a great job recognizing the ridiculousness of the doubt. You are observing the doubt. You're calling it into question. You've even well, actually, I think we could articulate this more. What is it about the mattress that you think is causing it? And why can't you let that go? Whatever it is. And I don't mean that critically, Darlene. It could be that you can't let it go because maybe somebody you really trust said that. So you can't dismiss what they said. Or maybe there's a particular idea within that that needs to get articulated so that we can counter it. You've already observed it, which is great. That's actually the biggest part in working with doubt. Next step, let's get it articulated. But even if it's been going on for 2 years, I can crush doubt in one sitting if we get the right ideas. So let's work at it. All right. Laura Brown says, how do you get rid of doubt when you have a less common mind-body symptom? A mind-body symptom doctor has told me that they have seen it before, but I wish I could see a story of someone getting better from this. All right, this is a very common thing that doubt uses against us. It loves to have symptoms be different because that is a way that doubt can stay. So actually, if you think about it and you find out what symptoms are actually like, they're often very different. Even with back pain, you could line up 10 people who had back pain and they would describe it, and a lot of it could be very different. Oh my God, you have a sharp pain there? Oh, I have a really dull ache here. It could be totally different. And then there are times where people have symptoms and they're like, I don't know, I have extreme skin sensitivity on the back of my left hand. I'm making that up. But all right, that is different than usual, but it doesn't matter, Laura. It doesn't matter at all because the mind-body process can use all of these physical processes. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be you get nosebleeds. It could be that that things smell weird to you. These are all strange ways of operating in a mind-body sort of way compared to the more typical back pain or something like that, or shoulder pain or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. In fact, if you talk to people, they have all kinds of weird symptoms. They're like, I don't know, I suddenly developed an allergy to honey. It can be that specific and that weird. Don't get fooled by the weirdness of it. So how do you get rid of a doubt when you have a less common mind-body symptom? Well, we have to understand what the doubt is. And hopefully you get counter information like I'm giving now that tells you it's working just the same. And, here's another way you can get rid of it. See the link between the mind's experience and the experience in the body. It doesn't matter what the symptom is. When you see that link is really there, your doubt will come down even more. Now, if it's always there, we got to bring down the doubt first before you can see that emotional process with the physicality of it. But the columns take us through all kinds of different ways of looking at things that make sense of things until you're just like, yeah, this is crap. And so, Laura, we got to get you convinced, and we got to get you convinced with a discussion, which is another reason, just to put another plug in for the groups. There's more discussion. We get a lot further in one sitting there. So if you want to look on my website, www.crushingdoubt.com, you can get my seminars there. You can get my groups there. You can get my book there. Ultimately, we need this to make sense. And so, Laura, let me know if I answered your question to your satisfaction. Okay. Charlene says it's probably the doubt over scoliosis causing my symptoms. All right. Well, scoliosis has been debunked as a reason for these symptoms, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So we need to have more of a discussion about that, Charlene. But you're pinpointing it. We know that there's some reason that you are having doubt that's sticking there, and we will crush it. Doubt can't survive well out in the open. It's kind of like if you put someone who's lying on the stand in a court case, the prosecution, they want to have that conversation be as long as possible. Why? Because the longer that liar's out there, the more chance they are going to expose themselves. And that is true for doubt also. So Charlene, let's put doubt on the stand and let's keep that going for as long as it takes to get to a point where you can see this is really not something you need to worry about. All right. Elios. Oh, I can't pronounce that name, but welcome. Thank you. Please let me know if you have questions. Diane Lewis, thanks for joining us here. Rudy, thanks for joining us here. He says pain detective. That's his nickname for me. Thank you, Rudy. I do have a way of figuring out where these symptoms come from. Chris Weir, thank you for joining us here as well. Rudy says, what's your oldest client that has recovered? I helped people with mind-body experiences into their 90s. That's the oldest. I'll see if I can get a 100-year-old at some point. But it doesn't matter what age. It doesn't matter at all, because everybody's got a brain and everybody's got a body. And if you get the understanding just right, you can get relief. Bibsy24, thanks for joining us here as well. All right. Where did we leave off? All right. Shelby says, I'll try to make this my last one. What do you do if you don't even know if you have mind body anymore and feel like just giving up? Any suggestions helpful? Thanks, Dan. Well, Shelby, your doubt is working overtime. No big surprise there. We know that. You do have mind body experience. So my question is this: why would you give up? And I'm not saying that critically. I'm actually saying it as a true question, where I want to hear, why do you think, why do you not know you have mind body anymore? What's happening with that? So, of course, feeling like just giving up, that's a doubt experience. That's hopelessness. Hopelessness is a doubt based experience, right? So, I want you to articulate, why do you think that? What's really happening, Shelby, is I think you're very frustrated with the whole process because it goes over and over and you can't get your mind to switch off it. But remember what I told you is the center point of your work. You can't trust your own mind, not yet. And I want to work with you on that. All right. Read the book, and especially the power column stuff, and see why you can't trust your own mind yet. That makes it hard to figure out how you're going to deal with things and to be certain about what's going on. Rudy says, wow, about the age. Yeah, I've had lots of success, all ages. All right. Darlene says, regarding new mattress, it's softer than in the past. I've always had firm mattresses. I've bought new mattresses in the past, thinking it would solve the problem, which it does initially, but then new symptoms. All right. So come up with each new bed after a period of time. It's so new symptoms come up with each new bed after a period of time. It's so frustrating. I get that, Darlene, but there's actually some good news in here. The mattress clearly doesn't matter. It doesn't. Now, doubt can play a role. Well, it plays a big role. But what I'm saying is doubt can play a bigger role around certain issues. You know, there are times where sleeping on a softer mattress could bring up doubt. And so maybe you want to get a more firm mattress, but not because the mattress matters, because the doubt matters. So I always say, do the thing that lowers the doubt. Getting a new mattress that's firm, maybe that lowers the doubt. But maybe getting new mattresses each time is the thing that raises the doubt. Maybe what you need to do is have a night's sleep that you get through where the trigger of the mattress doesn't take effect. That would bring down doubt. Now, ultimately, that's what's going to happen, Darlene. I can guarantee you this has nothing to do with your mattress. As we bring down doubt overall, this doubt's also going to melt away. All right? Laura Brown says, you totally answered my question. Excellent. Thank you. I will have a look at your website. Thank you, Laura. All right. Keep me posted on things. My goal is to answer the questions as much as possible. All right. Back to questions on YouTube. All right. Warren Henson, good to see you here. Warren says, Dan, after working with several TMS coaches, I still have sciatic-like symptoms and I have doubt, both that the pain is not due to a structural issue, and even if so, that I can resolve the pain. All right. Warren had the same question as Susan, but I'm going to look at what that is shortly. Would your group possibly be able to help me? I feel like a lost cause. All right, Warren, you are definitely not a lost cause. Nobody is. One of the things that I love about my column system is they have a way of helping everybody. Nobody can't be helped with this. The only people who don't get help with this are the people who have doubts, come to do the work with me, and their doubt still wins. Those people, they have trouble getting better. But if you're willing to work at it, I'm very good at bringing down doubt. So can the group help you? Absolutely. So I would say there's a chance, a very good chance here to do something different. When I said very good chance, I don't mean a very good chance that you can get better because there's actually 100% chance you can get better. But there's a very good chance, meaning this is a good opportunity. And I would love to talk with you about it. Send me an email if you want, dan@crushingdoubt.org, and we can talk about why what I'm offering is different. Also, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to read my book, but that's another way to learn about it and find out why it's so different. Um, People have worked with many people in the mind body field, but if they have doubt and the doubt doesn't come down, they don't tend to get better. I will take care of that doubt. That's what I do. All right. Darlene says, thank you, Dan. Doubt is so pesky. It sure is. Groups are great and hope to get back eventually. I sure hope so, Darlene. We miss you. We're doing great work there. Can't wait to pick up with it when you're ready. All right. Okay. Susan says, you are fortunate you never had a diagnosis and other people telling you that your pain and symptoms are coming from the diagnosis. How do you deal with having a diagnosis and believing your pain and symptoms are TMS and having people pull you back into doubt by reminding you of what these diagnoses mean? So when you say you were fortunate, I think you were talking to me about the back pain, but I did have a diagnosis when I had the foot issue. I was given a diagnosis and it was a CRPS diagnosis, which is like a really, really strong, nasty, and incorrect diagnosis. It's just it's just a collection of a description of symptoms. That's what a diagnosis tends to be. Most people think of a diagnosis as this identifies what I have, and then that determines the course of how things are going to go. That's not true. Usually, a diagnosis is just a collection of symptoms described in a certain way. Now, Susan, this is actually the same problem I was explaining with Shelby. This is not a surprise because we've been working on this. We need to get you to a place where you trust your own mind more than these other people. So it wasn't so much that I didn't get the diagnosis that kept me from falling into doubt so much. It's that I developed a way of feeling that what I think is actually more important than what these people think. And furthermore, these people are running against science and logic, and I'm not. Like scoliosis, for example. That's a diagnosis for Charlene or for Susan that has been shared with you, and it's complete bullshit that actually causes those symptoms. I can point you to the articles. They're all there. In fact, if you Google it, or if you Google like herniated disc cause back pain or any of these structural issues, you're going to find two types of things. One, you're going to find clinical studies that say there's no correlation between these supposed structural issues and the symptoms, or doctors claiming that they do with no evidence. You'll see people saying that they do on the internet all the time, but is it attached to research? It's not. It's actually not. It's what's being taught, and that's a problem. All right. So Susan, what we need to do is to get you to believe in yourself. All right. Oh, I see. Beatrice meant organ inflammation back when she was talking about that. I I really have a lot of doubt that would be the case. Usually doubt's not a good thing, but in this case it is. Ah, okay. Sorry, Russell. Thanks, Dan. I'm a pianist. I couldn't remember if it was keyboard or drums. The keyboard slash pedal weren't mine. It was borrowed. Okay. But you were probably feeling that you were kind of, people were judging you and it wasn't your fault. Um, that's a huge emotional trigger to feel blamed for something that's not your fault. And I think we need to look at that. That would have sent your power very low, very likely to have a symptom come up. I can guarantee you that this is a mind body symptom, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So let's see. He says, I appreciate your certainty greatly. Well, you got it. I'm totally certain about it. All right. We got to move into speed round. We got lots of things going on. Okay. Robux Studio, thanks for joining us. I'm going to run through in the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to answer these questions. I'm going to see if I can hit each one. All right. Jamie said, Dan will help. I've had constant dizziness for over 8 years, and the only one that has helped has been Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jamie. It's a great pleasure, and we're going to keep doing it. You're in the middle of really cranking out that power column work. So let's keep at it. All right. Rudy says, how soon will your audiobook come out? Well, I developed a cold, so it set me back from being able to record very well. So I'm guessing about 6 weeks, Rudy. I'll work on it. All right. All right. And if I do miss a question, please do let me know. All right. Olivier, thank you for joining us here. Can your practices help with a real structural issue? I've had chronic back pain for a year now. I got surgery for a herniated disc last November. I felt better for a bit, but a couple of weeks afterward, the pain came back. And now, last checkup, there appears to be a cyst at the area which presses on my nerves still. I have a lot of doubt whether or not I should get surgery again to remove that cyst or to try and push through again. All right, Olivia, I'm going to give you my idea, but we can always follow up on this. This is just my initial answer. All right. So herniated discs, there are studies that show there's no correlation with back pain. So a real structural issue, we gotta put that in its context. You can have a real structural thing that isn't the issue that causes the symptom. And that's the case with herniated discs. People, they see them, they're actually herniated. It's just that they don't cause any issues. There's no correlation with pain. This cyst is going to be another one of those things, Olivier. You do not need surgery for this. I mean, look, I'm not a medical doctor, so you can get that checked out by a doctor, but if you're going to do that, get checked out by a mind-body doctor who can really rule it out. It would be utterly shocking to me if it turns out this cyst is the thing that's pressing on the nerve and causing the issue, because they already had a faulty diagnosis. And how do we know this, Olivier? You got the surgery on it and it didn't help. And I'm sorry about that. That sucks, but it's not going to harm you in the long run. It's actually just a piece of evidence that this is actually mind body. So can I help with real structural issues? Yeah, because usually those real structural issues aren't the actual cause. So we can just get to the mind body work and ignore that supposed structural issue. I think the same is true with the cyst. But Olivier, this is the beginning of our conversation, so let's keep at it. All right. Rudy says, why would doctors want to operate if they know that's not really the cause of the pain? Yep. They don't know it's not the cause of the pain. And that's a huge problem. We got to get people educated in this. All right. Shelby, follow up. This doctor does know my fears, so that brought me more fear because she already knows the fear, right? And your reply outside this platform even brought me doubt. Huh? My book's stuck at a facility that's backed up 3 weeks. My reply outside this platform even brought you down. Well, you need to voice how, because that is not something that I would want. All right. Pinpoint what that was. We'll bring it down. I will say the flash started with my 8th trial of an antidepressant because that's all my doctor knows to do. And I always get horrible side effects from them. Interesting. How about this? Not only, well, listen, you might think of this as a side effect from the medication, but it also could be a side effect from being sick of trying medication. Don't underestimate how much your mind can do, Shelby. All right. S says, hello, Dan. This question has 2 parts. Part 1, can a sudden unexplained reduction of kidney function be a TMS issue? I wasn't having any symptoms of kidney problems at all. It was only discovered by chance in a routine blood test. My doctor can't figure out what caused it. Said it's most likely one of my meds that caused it, or some physical agent I've eaten. This kidney reduction has been happening quietly in the background, but not causing me any problems. Have you seen this? Can be TMS related. And then part 2, are TMS issues only consisting of health symptoms that you are aware of and can distract you? So hidden symptoms cannot be TMS. Thank you so much, Dan. Okay, let me deal with the first question first about kidney function. First of all, I'm not a medical doctor, and if there is something that could be life-threatening, I want you to get it checked out by a medical doctor. So the good news is, S, you're already talking to a medical doctor, and he or she does not seem to be concerned that this is some kind of issue. And in fact, they're kind of like, what's going on here? Well, I have seen issues where mind-body issues change all kinds of systems within the body. My wife's a type 1 diabetic, and when she's upset, she could take a huge amount of insulin and she won't even absorb it. It'll just go straight through her. So kidney function is very, very related to mind-body experience. Obviously, listen to your doctor about anything that could be serious about it. But if it was just this temporary blood test and there was a dip there, the chance of that being a mind-body experience is actually quite high. So make sure you and your doctor keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't seem like it's some kind of medical issue. But if it was really just a coming and going thing, yeah, I've seen that kind of thing happen all the time. All right, part 2. By the way, TMS is tension myositis syndrome, as we talked about. That's what Sarno called mind-body issues. Are they only consisting of health symptoms that you are aware of, or can hidden symptoms cannot be mind body? Actually, that's not true, and I mean that as good helpful information to help you guys understand it. You could have a rash on your body that you had for days and not even realize you had it, and then suddenly look in the mirror and be like, "What is that?" You know. So you got to remember your mind and body are they're working together the whole time, and a lot of times it's not so conscious. So mostly just pay attention to whatever symptoms happening. Hidden symptoms, they can be mind body, but they do tend to reveal themselves because a lot of times it's a communication as well. Tell me if I answered that question. All right. Hillel says, follow up. Yes, it makes sense. This is a major trigger for me and causes significant anxiety. Of course it does. Based on your understanding of me, do you have any advice or direction to help me make sense of the event and manage my anxiety and symptoms currently? The main thing, Hillel, is to recognize the emotions column is more useful than you think. Much more. That's the step we're on right now. I want to help you get a sense that you can manage this much better. Ironically, think about it. This is a situation that made you feel low in power, like you're not in control. And I'm telling you, the emotions column is a way that you can feel very in control. And nobody can stop you from understanding these things and getting what you need. All right. Millie says, thanks, Dan. My doubt is that this medication has possibly permanently damaged me. It has a black box warning and genuinely can disable people, but the initial reaction was very scary. All right. I mean, I think that first of all, I think that doubt trigger was very strong. It sounded very scary. And at the same time, the doctors said they can't explain what happened. When doctors can't explain what happened, that's a good sign that nothing bad is happening here. Now, we should talk more about it, but you have some follow-up. There was nothing going on for me at the time emotionally that I can think of other than a proven infection that needed a medication. It sounds to me like the medication just scared the shit out of you, and the I don't know if you read the label before, but if you were worried about it, that would be an easy doubt trigger. Millie, we can sort this out over time. I'm going to need to get more information though. Throttle Torque, good to see you here. Carolyn Merlina, thank you for joining us here. Rudy says, if and when you start coming to cities, don't forget Fresno, California. I will come see you, Rudy. I'll keep it in my mind. All right, Steve Smith says, I got your book and I feel that my back pain is from doubt, mostly doubt of how the heck or will this leave after so many years of pain? Should I just focus on what my doubt is or need to resolve? I just don't believe after so long it will go away, even though it fully went away in the past just by reading Sarno. All right, well, first of all, we have a strong indication that this can go away because you did it from reading Sarno. It will go away, Steve. But, your doubt is higher this time around, and sometimes that happens the second time around because when people get relief from Sarno and then they have symptoms that aren't going away, they start to think, now even Sarno doesn't work or something like that. Don't panic. My book's going to give you more information and we can talk about it. And I can work directly with you on this. This is a mind-body issue. You already know that because you've made it go away. All we need to know is that you are going to be capable of controlling what happens in the mind to make it go away. So what you're having doubt about whether you're going to be able to master doubt. That's what I call level 3 doubt. It's doubt about the self and whether you can manage it, but you can. And I can help you do it. You don't have to do it alone. All right. Now, that's a short answer, but we need to get into a longer discussion for me to be of greater help to you. But do let me know if I answered your question, at least partially to your satisfaction, and what more you would need to know. Millie said, I believe in mind body and think it could be the key for me, but I've not had one day of relief as evidence. That's what happens in the doubt column, Millie. You don't get I didn't have a day of relief either until I just kept working at the cognitive experience and realized this really is mind body. I had to really believe it before I got any relief. And how do you believe it? It's got to make sense. That's how I think about it. All right. I'm trying to motor through these questions. Warren, Susan says, Warren, thank you. And the group is extremely helpful. Thanks for that support, Susan. Warren said, Dan, I did send you an email. Great. I'll respond to you shortly. Millie said, I have lots of symptoms, dizziness, limb weakness, head pressure, POTS, that's a very known mind-body experience all day, every day. It sucks for sure, Millie. But I've been there with lots of these things. I've also helped people with these things, including POTS and all of this stuff. All of these symptoms. I mean, I've cured thousands of symptoms at this point. I can help you. You're having doubt. I understand why. It's easy to have doubt when it's not resolving itself. All right. Olivia says, "Thank you. Looking forward to ordering. Looking forward to the book." Okay, thanks, Olivia. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. Then S said, "No, it wasn't a dip. It was a consistent reduction over months." Oh, in the kidney function. I see. I mean, the kidney reduction wasn't a one-off dip. It has been going on for months now, and I'm at a crucial low, and we can't figure out what is causing it. Ah, okay. So first thing, could it still be a mind-body issue if it's persisting this way? Yeah, it could be, but I will say this: as if that is the case, then I would want. Well, first of all, I want you to stay focused with your doctor on anything that needs to happen medically. They've got to deal with this medically because any dangerous kidney function reduction needs to be addressed. All right, so do the medical stuff. But I will say this: there can be very severe mind body responses when things are not going processed. So it could be that it's still going to need to be dealt with medically until you're safe. So deal with it medically to get you to safety. And then we could start to look at, are there some big emotional issues, like really, really deep, that can drive that? Because the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, shows that these unprocessed emotional experiences can lead to really, really severe physical events. I'm glad your doctor's looking at it, has it under control. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to really take a deep look at the traumas of the past and of your childhood, and see if you're not on to something there. All right. Now, if you need help with that, send me an email, dan@crushingdoubt.org. Okay. Hillel says, "Crushing the emotions column is next." Yep. Thank you, Dan. My pleasure, Hillel. We're going to do it. Millie said, "Appreciate your time, Dan. Do you do one-to-one work or just the group?" I primarily do the group. It's really important. There's so many people that want the help. I have to work that way. I do one-to-one consultations very rarely, but they're extremely expensive and there's a wait list. So what I'd say is this, Millie, get in touch with me. Let's figure out a plan. Because I also have trained people who do one-to-one work. But either way, I can get you answers. All right. So check out my website, www.crushingdoubt.com, for the seminars, the groups, the book. Email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org, whatever you need to do. All right. S says, "Thanks so much. So appreciated. My pleasure, S. Take care of yourself. You're going to be okay. We just need to look at what's going on here and have the doctors monitor you for any, key medical stuff." Throttle Torque says, "I know my body isn't broken, but I still fear the symptoms. It's driving me insane." One thing I can say to this, Throttle Torque, is it will really help you to have a system to know, how are you going to manage this? How are you going to get free of the symptoms? As soon as you're convinced you can do it, it's not going to drive you so insane. You're going to start to feel excited. You're going to start to feel you can do this work. Contact me as needed, and we'll do this work together. Okay. Thank you all. It's a pleasure seeing you. I'll be here same time next week. Keep the questions coming. I'll keep the answers coming. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.